Hello and good evening. Welcome you all. I welcome you all on the behalf of entire Creativist team. So this is Sumit Joshi. We are bringing you the JEE paper to a analysis. So आज हम बात कर रहे होंगे JEE paper को लेकर and this analysis is for this April attempt and this is the first hand analysis that we are bringing for you. Uh, I know some of you are already uh, talking about it, so let's have a look at the comments as well. So mathematics was kind of tough for you, aptitude was easy, drawing took a lot of time, Qutub Minar to be drawn from down to top view, okay, and draws 3D sports items in an imaginative way, something like that. All right, so I appreciate your efforts. I appreciate your efforts कि आपने इन सारे क्वेश्चंस को हमारे साथ शेयर किया है. लेट्स टॉक अबाउट इट. सो लेट्स स्टार्ट फ्रॉम द वेरी बिगिनिंग. दैट इज पेपर पैटर्न क्या है. अगर हम पेपर पैटर्न की बात करें तो इट इज डिवाइडेड इनटू थ्री पार्ट्स. First part is mathematics, where you have 20 questions in 20 questions of MCQ type and 10 questions of numerical answer type. Of these 30 questions, you need to attempt, of these 30 questions, you need to attempt 25 for a maximum marks of 100. For a maximum marks of 100. Fine. Then part two was aptitude test. This is again computer based test, online test ही था यहाँ पर भी. And it consisted of 50 questions that is divided majorly into two categories, that is aptitude part and architectural aptitude part, right? So in general, AAT based questions are 15 and aptitude based questions are 35. And to our surprise, जेई ने लास्ट अटेम्प्ट पर जिस तरह से क्वेश्चंस पूछे थे एग्जैक्टली उस तरह से ना पूछते हुए उन्होंने पुराने पैटर्न को फॉलो किया. दैट इज जनवरी अटेम्प्ट पर जो जेई ने पूछा था एप्टीट्यूड वाले पार्ट पर, वहां पर क्वांटिटेटिव एप्टीट्यूड लॉजिकल रीजनिंग टाइप के क्वेश्चंस का वेटेज वाज अ बिट मोर देन द कन्वेंशनल क्वेश्चंस दैट वी हैव सीन इन पास्ट. दैट इज 2D 3D फिगर्स और उनके टॉप व्यू, नंबर ऑफ सरफेसेस, फ्रंट व्यू, इस तरह के क्वेश्चंस जो है दैट वर रिलेटिवली लेस इन जनवरी अटेम्प्ट. बट इन दिस अटेम्प्ट they have asked the conventional way. The conventional way, that is एप्टीट्यूड के जो 35 क्वेश्चंस हैं इनमें काफी ज्यादा वेटेज था ऑफ 3D फिगर्स, जिन 3D फिगर्स के आपसे नंबर ऑफ सरफेसेस भी पूछे गए. इनफैक्ट सेम 3D फिगर्स वर रिपीटेड टू आइडेंटिफाई उनका फ्रंट व्यू क्या होगा या उनका टॉप व्यू क्या होगा, राइट? सो आई हर्ड from many students that this was relatively easy because ये conventional JEE पेपर के aptitude type का aptitude था. Though few questions were on quantitative aptitude, one or two odd questions on logical reasoning as well. One of them was on distance and direction. Then AAT पर भी कुछ क्वेश्चंस थे. क्या क्वेश्चंस थे उनको लेकर बात करेंगे. तो दिस वाज अ मेजर पोर्शन दैट कवर्ड 50% ऑफ द टोटल मार्क्स. एंड आई हैव हर्ड फ्रॉम मेनी स्टूडेंट्स दैट दे हैव डन इट in a good manner. In fact, majority of the students were very happy with this part of the paper, that is aptitude was relatively easier as if we compare it with the January paper, right? Rather, they found it easier because it is the conventional JEE paper 2A, that is B.Arch का जो conventional paper past references से मैच करे तो मैच करता सा लगता है, जहां पर बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस ऑन 2D 3D एंड नंबर ऑफ सरफेसेस काउंट करने को लेकर थे, राइट? सो दैट्स व्हाई स्टूडेंट फाउंड इट रिलेटिवली इजियर और in their comfort zone. Then the third part was of drawing, and this was online. This was not online. The questions were on a screen, but you need to draw on your sheets. So the questions, there were two questions on drawing and there were no options, as we heard in the very first information from the students. So let's go to the sections and section wise बात कर लेते हैं. So first of all, mathematics वाले part की अगर हम बात करें तो I've got an input from the students, that is these are the 13 topics. In fact, I may miss out one or two odd topics as well. Still, I am looking for the update. Still, I am looking for the update. Right. So let's talk about the remainder theorem. So this was a question based on remainder theorem. Can be attempted in two ways based on binomial. Alternatively, you can also think of alternatively you can also think of the remainder conventional remainder theorem based approach. Mathematical reasoning say there was one question, determinant non-trivial solutions per question था, matrices से दो questions थे, PNC probability पर straightforward simple से questions थे, binomial theorem पर there was a question, differential equation पर there was a question, limits पर there were two questions, complex number they have asked one question, integration there were two questions. Sequence and series based, there were two questions. One of them was on arithmetic progression and the second one was on geometric progression. Plain 3D geometry per there were questions. So this is it about mathematics section. I'll also be updating it in a certain time. So let's quickly talk about the aptitude part. So in aptitude part, does as we had discussed, 3D based 3D figures जिन पर number of surfaces you need to count, certain 3D figures जिनके you need to identify the front view or the top view, certain 2D figures जिनका 3D identify करना था. Though these were lesser in numbers, non-verbal reasoning based certain questions थे जहां पर paper folding and mirror image based, water image based questions थे. Quantitative aptitude parts I have told there were two questions. Distance direction based there was one question. Architectural aptitude, the question that I've heard, but these questions are not complete as of now. So Jamshedpur was designed by which architect? This was one of the questions. There were four architects, and you need to identify the name of the architect who has not received Pritzker's Prize. Mahadev temple based there was question, and name of architect based भी कुछ questions थे. So we will be updating you about the same in comment section as well. So first hand experience पर जो हम बात कर रहे हैं वो ये सारी बात है. So within few minutes, Rajendra Bhatia sir will be taking care of the drawing section. So stay connected, guys.
Good evening, friends. I'm sure a lot of you are happy because the drawing section in JEE B.Arch was fabulous. Although less number of options, but then good people are not looking for options. They just want to do and pinpoint their ability onto the drawing part. Friends, today we had JEE B.Arch and the part 3 drawing test was comparatively simple because it did not ask you anything of memory. It asked you to put your details onto the copying work. However, the copying was not that direct. It had 3-point perspective. The all famous Qutub Minar was given in 3-point perspective, and you were supposed to take the lines and the distance of line according to the 3-point perspective. That means the side lines were to be narrowed down, and of course they were to be narrowed down onto the zenith. Zenith is the vanishing point on top, and you had to give a lot of details. Particularly difficult was one where you had to give a little curvature into the perspective. But if you have taken the frame lines, the lines going down to up into the drawing, I can guarantee you are going to get very good marks. Then when you are doing the detailing again, you have to use the perspective, not going like, anything coming your way and you would draw it. You had to take the lines in perspective. So a perfect 3-point perspective, you had to draw and then render it. So I'm sure, friends, looking at the things, you have done wonderful job. The only regret to many of people might be that the memory drawing question was not given, but it's all right. Your observation and your skill of doing 3-point perspective would have paid you as far as this drawing is concerned. Some of my students have phoned me recently and have told that they might as well get somewhere in between 45 and 50. Well, that is slightly exaggeration because unless you have done every design to the perfection, the numbers might be varying between 40 and 45 if you've done very good 3-point perspective. The other question was not a 2-dimension design, it was a 3-dimension design. And friends, it also required your skill onto the sciography. Now you were asked to take up a design using any sports equipments and making a sculpture out of it. Now, sculpture, remember one thing, sculpture is something which is a stable thing. So, if you are making a sculpture where the ball is kept on one side, the bat is like hanging like this, no, your points will be less. So, make a firm sculpture. I have used in this design um, many bats put in a circle, and into the center, I have placed a football. Remember, this is a football and not a ball from basketball or volleyball or a cricketing ball. No, this is a proper football, and of course, then there are many bets around. What I can see are the 7 bets. However, when you are making a sculpture sketch, you have to remember the perspective. So what you were supposed to draw was something like, you know, an ellipse of this kind. In case you're choosing this one, I'm just giving an example. Then use one side the light source, and then you had to, so light source would be somewhere around here to give you this shadow, and you had to shade these sides. Okay. And well, of course, shades in color would be like I used yellow ochre here and brown here. I used not exactly black color, but a purple color here and a little leather color ball here. It could have been white ball also. So that is how I'm sure many of you have done sculpture of your choice, but coloring and taking the psicography, the light shade shadow should have been good for your sculpture. So 3 points I have told you. One, that stability, sculpture is supposed to be stable. Combination, its perspective, your knowledge of perspective should be depicted onto the sketch. I have used just a black pen to outline it because I wanted to erase out many unwanted lines. So it is better to go in for a micro tip pen and do the outline and then erase out the unwanted pencil lines. Otherwise, it becomes very shabby to color it. And of course, the shades in relation to the sphere should also come up. So if that was your case, I think you've done good job. If you haven't done so good, and if you have turned it into a 2 point perspective, I suspect you will get less numbers. Gurpreet Singh saying, yes, sir, drawing was without portrait, which was good. But then they made your life even difficult with that 3 point perspective, isn't it, Gurpreet? Karthik Bhatnagar, this drawing has just now been made. Now, what do you want me to do on that? I just made this drawing before taking up this live session, and that is what I told you. The drawing is made taking a vanishing point on top, drawing these lines. That is what I called as the bone lines for the drawing of Qutub Minar, and then drawing these lines. Can you see those faint lines? Darkening up the bone lines to great extent. And what was required to do was this as well, to give the feel of round, and these sharp lines to give the feel of that angular cladding. Let me check up with some more questions here. Fine, friends, I think I have given you some tips, and now you have to wait for your results only. I think my student and all of you must have done good enough. I gave you just a glimpse of what was asked and what should have been done. Thank you very much for the time you have spent with me. Bye bye for now. Have a very nice night. Bye bye.